Good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on Bloomerang Academy. Today we're talking about Bloomerang and the donor search integration. Some of you may already be familiar with this by seeing the generosity score on your constituent's profile. We'll talk a little bit about what that means, what the profile report that you can take a look at from the prospect view means, what batch screening is, and kind of the full suite of tools that donor search offers for us. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'd like to welcome Mike, who will be our main presenter for today. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mike.
No problem. Thanks for having me. So a little bit about donor search and myself before we get too far into it. I've been with the company about 5 years. The company has been around for about 13. We're a family-owned business with about 55 employees. And we're located in Marriottsville, Maryland. Right now, due to COVID, we're all working remotely, and we'll probably do so for quite some time now. But as a company that travels often and kind of works out of the box already, that wasn't much of a change for us. So I am in my home office. If you hear 2 small children, I apologize, but I've got 2 young boys who are sitting downstairs, not learning from home like they should be doing. That being said, we're here to talk about Bloomerang and Donor Search. So let's get into it. Donor Search is a prospect research company. So our goal as a company is to help nonprofits by providing them information on their donors so that you can leverage it to increase your annual fund, increase your campaigns, and overall kind of know more about the person that you're talking to. So today with Bloomerang, we're happy to talk about a few different services, some that you already have built into your system, some that are available for a drastically discounted rate, and then some that are just very discounted rate. But it's all available to you now, and you can kind of sign up through Bloomerang for any of the services that we're going to talk about. So let's start on this main page. What I have here is a constituent in my database, a guy named Kevin Plank. We talk about him all the time because he's kind of a local celebrity in our neck of the woods in Maryland. But for all of you who have never heard of him, he will stand as an average donor that may be in your system. So basically right now, without any services, you have this information to go on. Of course, you have your engagement level with Bloomerang, which is really great, and it's going to highlight your relationship with the donor. You also have a service that's called the generosity score that's powered by Donor Search. What this is going to do is whereas the engagement level is an internal score looking at your data to judge your relationship with this person, the generosity score is an external source of data judging this person's relationship with the nonprofit market as a whole. Okay, so as you go through these ratings, they're going to indicate how likely this person is to make a major gift. Now, it's not specifically make a major gift to you. That would be the engagement level, but it's how are they doing outwardly and who are they giving to and all that. So an on-fire rating says this person is already making major gifts, okay? This generosity score is available for all of you, all Bloomerang current clients in your system now. So you can go in there and check that out after the webinar. The next level of service is a tool called Prospect View. Basically, what we wanted to provide is the ability to dig deeper into this generosity score and find out all the details behind it. And that's through what we call our donor search profile. So I'll click the View Generosity Details button right here. And that's going to lead you to this button that says View and Donor Search. Now this information right here is certainly us, and we're going to certainly focus on that a little bit later in the webinar. So keep it in mind. But for now, for this Prospect View service, we're going to focus on the View and Donor Search button. So I'll go ahead and click on that. That is going to open what we call our legacy profile inside of Bloomerang, okay? You'll see up here that you're still in Bloomerang. There's 3 main sections to this profile. Well, I guess 4, but we'll talk about that in a second. The first is the input data. This is the data that goes into the search. The more accurate and more plentiful this data is, the better your profile is going to be across the board. So if you see anything that's incorrect or any blanks, such as middle initials or spouses' names that you happen to know, please hit edit fields and fill in that information and recalculate the profile. That's going to give you your best results across the board. The next section right here is our summary section. Okay. This information stands to give you a quick glimpse at this donor as a whole. It's more than just the one rating of the generosity score, but it's going to summarize things and help you know what kind of prospect you're looking at. So I'll talk about a few data sets here. I'm not going to go line by line, but certainly if you have questions, you can text them into the chat and we'll try to help you out there. The first two aspects here are kind of a mix between industry standards and the customization that DonorSearch offers. The first is this, or the second, I guess, is the target ask based on wealth. This is a type of score that's been around the industry for generations. And basically what it presents is that this is the amount of money this person could theoretically donate. Okay? It does not mean go and ask this person for that much money, although that would be nice. This is actually designed to be a 5-year pledge where they donate 10% of their estimated net worth. So inherently, this number is going to be very large. And in many cases, the person would have to sell off a home or a business in order to make a gift of that size. They could certainly do that, but it is less likely. However, we tend to focus on the target ask based on giving. This is something that only DonorSearch does. This is where we're confidently rating him by pointing out the single largest gift that we have found him making. That's the level of confidence we have in our charitable giving data. Okay, and I'll explain that confidence in a minute. This is saying that Kevin Plank or his wife Desiree Plank made a single gift of $1 million. Because of that, that's going to rate him in our top ranking for our general score called the DS rating. Just stands for DonorSearch. It's nothing complicated. I can hit the little question mark here as well as every other data set to see exactly what it means. But a DS1-1 simply means this person made a major gift. So this is the type of person that you're looking for. Okay, when you find a DS1-1, whether they're a brand new donor or they've been giving to you for a long time and you just had no clue that they were capable of a gift of this size. Right, this is a big red flag that says, start building that relationship with this individual. The DS rating is also the translated version of the generosity score. So while they abbreviate, because we have a few more ratings than the generosity does, the DS1-1 is just the same as the on fire rating inside of Bloomerang. Okay, which means that on fire rating means this is a known major donor, and you should certainly focus on that aspect. As we go down, we'll show you a couple data points here: real estate, total charitable giving, FEC giving, and SEC stock information. This is the summary based on the high quality information versus the total possible. You'll see most of these are pretty close. But then we break it down in the next section in a more detailed manner. So here you see each different data set that we offer, starting with the charitable giving section. And it says 11 out of 22. That means we have confirmed matches to 11 charitable gifts that this person made. The way we confirm them is by comparing the data in the gift, which is a single line pulled out of an annual report, and comparing it to the data that you put in. The more data points that we can match to, the more accurate the data is going to be. So here you see a 3-star match. That means we're very confident that this person, this Kevin and Desiree Plank, is in fact the same Kevin and Desiree Plank you're looking at up here. Right? As we go down, you'll see that there's 2 and 3 stars, both saying we're confident, but the 2 is, we have less confidence a little bit, right? But we're still enough to say it's the right person. You'll see some check marks, which I'll explain in a second. And then you get to these red star gifts. This is where we have enough information to say that this could be the person that you're looking at, that could be the right person, but there's not enough to confidently say that as a fact. So this is where your own knowledge can really support it and increase the benefit of the tool specifically for you. No changes that you make in this profile are going to go into our database and change anything for any of our other clients. So don't worry about deleting things. Don't worry about adding things. Anything you do in the profile is going to be specifically and exclusively for you and your organization. So I can go through these and make decisions to say, yep, that's him, and that's him, or none of these are him. But once you check the check marks, up in the action bar gives you a few options. You can mark them high with 2 or 3 stars, which would then increase them and bring them to 2 or 3 check marks, thus confirming that a person from your organization manually confirmed that data. If you don't believe it's correct, in the action bar, you can hit delete. Now, we understand people are hesitant to ever delete information because they worry about that they're going to make a mistake. So we actually built in a button that says undelete. So if you do make a mistake, no worries, we have it covered. That same star system is actually in place for all of our other data sets. So as I go through, you'll see that in place throughout the profile. So here is where we have political federal giving and political state giving. This is where they've made a gift through the FEC. It's legally required to be public data, so we provide that. You see the quality score on the right here. And you can see what type of political organizations they give to. Going down, we'll provide real estate information. This is really great for, especially for those of you in a typically in a vacation spot, as an example. So whether it's very hot where you are or very cold, people come there specifically in one season to enjoy that weather. So what we're able to find here is no matter what address you put in, we're able to find other addresses that they may have. And then you can open up each one and find additional information. Okay, so you see this address is the mailing address as well as the property address, which means this is his primary residence. You'll also see that not only does it list him, but it also lists his wife and both of their middle initials. This is a great place to pick up extra information if you didn't already know it. Okay, so in the case where you may just be searching for a Kevin Plank in Maryland, you can look at the real estate, identify the spouse, and then put that in there and increase the benefit of the data across the board. Right? It's going to get more accurate. It's going to find more data, all around beneficial. Okay. Further down, we're going to get into some philanthropic markers. The first is grant giving foundations that he sits on the board of. And you can open those up and see who sits on the board in the family. In this case, it's Kevin, and which organizations they give to. You can also see things like business or family foundations here. So here it's himself and his wife. You see the assets and grants paid and approved of the organization. And then you see a list of their top 10 grants. Now, for any of you that want to get really involved in the grants and the foundations, we'll actually, in the other profile, which I'll show you in a second, we'll highlight all the grants that we have data of, not just the top 10. So keep that in mind. I'll show it to you a bit later. Then we go into nonprofits. These are going to highlight that Kevin Plank sits on the board of an organization helping them raise money. Right? Now, in most cases, a board member is going to donate to that organization, and he's not going to sit on the board of an organization he has no interest in. So this is just as beneficial as the charitable giving in helping them find out, or in helping find out what organizations he's interested in. Okay, and as you can see, just like the rest of the profile, we have a couple 3-star confirmed matches, and then a few matches that could be a different Kevin Plank. So you want to take a look at those and make a judgment call. Again, any of the red star data is not included in his ratings and rankings until you confirm it to 2 or 3 check marks. So this list of possibles is not going to work against you. So if you don't know one way or another, you can always leave it there until you can make an official decision. As we head down, we have some Database USA business data, as well as Open Corporate's business data. Both of these are going to point out businesses that he's associated with, again, with the same star rating system. So here we have him as the CEO of Under Armour in Baltimore, Maryland. Again, that's why we talk about him. And if you look up a business that may not be known to you, there's a full description of what they do. That way you can have a conversation with Kevin about it and make any informed decisions. Okay, perhaps they can help your organization in a different way than just a monetary gift. Okay. As we go down, we're going to open up a section called SEC Insiders, SEC Insider Holdings. Now, most people do not know what this is, so I'm going to explain in a little bit more detail. The long and short of it is that when someone is an SEC insider, it means that they are either a director, an officer, or a 10% owner of a publicly traded stock, which means if you can buy stock in it, their stock has to be public. Okay. You can use this as a wealth marker to show that he has over $340 million associated with this company. All right, that's certainly a great way to say that he's capable of making a major gift. Another thing I would challenge you to take a look at is these stock symbols. If you're gearing up to ask Kevin for a gift in the near future, whether it's a week away, a month away, or 6 months away, you can start tracking this stock symbol. Because if this stock hits to $11, $12, $13, it's a great time to ask him for a gift because he just made a ton of money. If it starts dropping, which is an important thing, especially during these COVID times, if he happens to be, a toilet paper manufacturer, right, he might be in a very generous, very giving mood right now. Whereas if he's into public sports, that might not be a happy time for his stock. So you might want to hold off until he gets a little bit of a rebound and then ask him for a gift. It might lead to a larger gift. All right, it's just another piece of data to keep in mind when you're dealing with the individual. Last but not least, at the bottom here, we have relationships and affiliations. If you open that up, this will list out several organizations that he's associated with, including Under Armour. When you open that section, this will give you a list of people that he knows at Under Armour and works with. So if Kevin Plank is on your board, he's a great friend, and he would be more than willing to give you an introduction. You can talk to him about any of these people, and it traditionally works better than saying, hey, do you happen to have any wealthy friends that you could introduce us to? Okay. The flip side is also true. If you don't know Kevin at all, you can look at the people he associates with and find somebody you might have a better relationship with, maybe a board member, maybe a known donor, maybe your Uncle Steve. Okay. Whatever that relationship is, that person would then be able to introduce you to Kevin. And then you can get kind of a foot in the door. Okay. Now, all of this information is available at a fingertip length. You can click a button real quick and easy. You can get to it and use it to make informed decisions about how you're going to interact with this individual. But there's more information available. So up here in the action bar, there's a button called Switch to Advanced. Now, this used to be our standard and only profile. But we wanted to make it a little bit fancier, give it the capability of a few things, but we didn't want to leave any of our clients that have come to know and love this profile in the dust. So both profiles are currently available, but you hit the Switch to Advanced button, and this is going to show you a new style profile. It takes an extra second to load, but it has a lot more functionality, including these graphs that you can add throughout the profile. Okay. This profile also has a few data sets that weren't otherwise available when the first one was created. The first of which is crowdfunding. Okay, so if I scroll down here to the crowdfunding section, it's right under the charitable giving if he has data, but in this case he doesn't. That's going to look for giving such as GoFundMe, things like that. Okay, so it's kind of a hot topic right now. We also have a few databases down here at the bottom. This one is social discovery. This will go out and find someone based on their email address, their home address, or their phone number. and it's going to look for social media. So in this case, it finds a lightly used Twitter handle. But in other cases, you can find pictures and a LinkedIn and employment histories and education histories, a lot of information that the person makes publicly available through social media. All right, you can also, of course, click the icon to go to that person's platform. Okay, the next one is Crunchbase. This is going to give you information on founders, CEOs, top executives, that kind of thing. And they're going to go a step further and give you kind of a biography about the person, tell you where they're coming from, what they made their money doing, why they're in the news right now, that kind of thing. Okay. All of this data goes into this profile, is easily accessible and easily referenceable. Now you can also save these profiles. You can change the layouts, print them, save them as a PDF, email them to a colleague, whatever you want to do. They're all that data is available here and ready at your fingertips. The benefit to working inside of Bloomerang is not only can you have access to this data, but you can make changes to it and hit update generosity in Bloomerang. That's going to go back to the platform and make any changes to this score that are needed. In this case, we didn't really make any changes, so they're there. But you can also do that not only on those one-by-one records, but you can have Bloomerang process profiles for everyone in your system and populate those most common fields right here. Okay, that's going to give you the ability to see this information at a quick glance and see inside the system what data is available on that person without even going into the specific profile. Okay, so this is actually a separate service, but it will highlight information on your whole database instead of just who you choose to click the button on. Okay, I think it's time for a quick Q&A. Is that correct?
Hi, Mike. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that presentation. I do have a couple that I flagged that I think it would be nice to answer for everyone. We have a question here from Jean that says, she's seen that in areas with expensive home prices, the ability to give is linked to that, but owning an expensive home doesn't necessarily correlate to gifts. So the giving capacity might be different from actual philanthropic giving. Can you talk a little bit about that and how DonorSearch handles that?
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons we focus on philanthropy as opposed to wealth, because people may also be in the situation where they, it's commonly referred to as house poor, but they purchase a very large piece of property and they're making maybe even their first year or two of payments on it, but that is certainly not a sign of their overall wealth. So that's certainly something to think about anytime you're going to focus specifically on wealth markers. That's why we lean towards the target ask based on giving instead, because then you know that this person's charitable, they're philanthropic, and they're actually in a position not only to give away money, but they're a person that would like to do that. They have that interest.
Wonderful. Thank you. We have a question from Erin here. She's not seen gifts that donors gave to their organization. Is there something that's going wrong here? Or is it the amount of the gift? Or how could they update the profile so it reflects the gifts to their organization?
Another great observation. We build our charitable giving database from public annual reports, which means if you pull up a profile on your donors, you may very well see some of your gifts in that record. However, if you're an organization that does not print an annual report or makes it only available directly to their donors and not as a publicly available document, then we may not have that information. Okay. You are always welcome to send us public annual reports, and we are glad to add them in the database. But obviously, there's some organizations that would not like to do that. That is where you can manually add a charitable gift, and I'll go back in the profile to show you this, but you can add a charitable gift into that section on your own by clicking right here, add the gift, and it'll show up in the profile. But overall, the point of this data is not necessarily to tell you information you already know, which would be your internal charitable giving. That's more a focus on Bloomerang's side. Our goal here is to show you what you may not know, show you what they're doing elsewhere. So if we have the luxury of having your database in the system, it's going to be readily available. If it's not, you can add as much or as little into the profile as you'd like without it going into our database at all. Or you can send us public annual reports like some of our clients do, which would then go into the database and be applicable for any client that you look up that you know has already given to you. Okay. In general, it takes about 2 weeks to get the data into our system, but we add about 200,000 to 300,000 records per week. So it's always possible that we add it on our own as we come across it anyway. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. Thank you so much. We have another question here. A number of our donors give through donor-advised funds or family foundations. Does the profile take into account gifts made through an individual's third-party giving vehicles?
Great question. So the answer is yes and no. We track the public annual reports, which means if I have a great relationship with the University of Maryland, as an example, and they know that I give them $1 million gift through my donor advised fund, then they're likely to thank me personally in the annual report. Okay. In that regard, some of these gifts may have actually been given through a donor advised fund. However, if I wish to remain anonymous and I give them, $100,000 through my donor advised fund and they never know who it came from, then that information is going to remain anonymous and we're not going to find it. So one of the ways that we can help you out in that situation is because basically if they wish to remain anonymous, they can remain anonymous across the board, okay? But throughout our profile, we have other data sets that would point to them being philanthropic. So even if they hide all of their charitable giving, they may not be able to hide their political giving. They may not be able to hide that they sit on the board of a grant giving foundation. Those things that are legally have to be required and are made public information are where you would start looking for that information on a person you know hides their data.
That's a great point, Mike. Thank you. I think we'll continue with the presentation for now, but if you have additional questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A and we'll have more time for Q&A at the end. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to hop into now what we call the second part, but the DonorSearch online suite of tools. Okay, this is our website, donorsearch.net. Before I dig in, I highly recommend you check out the site and see all the different things we offer. Right? But when I log in, you of course would receive your own username and password, but you're going to gain access to a full suite of research tools. Okay, and when I talk about a suite of research tools, some people think it's just that same integration we just showed you. And it certainly contains that aspect, but it's more like going to the library. There's going to be the card catalog where you can look up things. There's going to be, each individual book where you can find data. There's lots of ways to go from one aspect to the other and learn more and more and more about a prospect of any kind. Okay, so that's what I talk about when I talk about our DonorSearch online platform. The first tool that it starts up and opens up is our integrated search. This is just like your integration, except you have to fill it in manually. So this is where you would type in the name of someone who you don't have in Bloomerang, maybe somebody you met at an event, or maybe somebody you saw playing Jeopardy last night, right? It's up to you. The minimum required data here is a first name, a last name, and a state. With those three factors, we'll bring up a real estate list to help you narrow down and find more about your prospect, whether it's a spouse's name or a home address or a middle initial. And then you can build those profiles that I already showed you. We even have a link up here to switch between profiles if you have a preference of one or the other. Okay. Everything to the left of the integrated search is another research tool to help you dig through our data sets, most of which are on the profile in one way or another, but in a different way. So I'll give you an example of each. Our gift search is a way to look up charitable and philanthropic giving across the board for a company or a foundation. In this case, since we talked about Kevin Plank already, I'll kind of keep that example going, and we can look up his company, Under Armour. Okay, so we'll search here. Now, we showed you that Under Armour is a $5 billion company and that Kevin's the CEO. We did not show you that Under Armour makes charitable gifts themselves. So you can look up Under Armour here and see a list of charitable gifts that they've made. But it's not just charitable reports here. This is our charitable giving database and our political giving database and our other gift records all put into one data set. So I can sort by the size of the gift here, and the first record is an Under Armour grant from their foundation that we got from their 990. Okay, $5 million to Cal Ripken Senior Foundation in Baltimore. As you go down, you get a gift directly from Under Armour to the Wounded Warrior Project. Then you get a gift from Under Armour and the Cupid Foundation to Fight for Children, and so on. So you can look across just one database into multiple different giving databases to find any record with the keyword Under Armour in it. Now, the reason this database isn't perfect for individuals is that if you search Kevin Plank here, you'll see that there's no star system here. So this is going to show you every single gift by any Kevin Plank in the country. All right, so you really want to focus on individual companies or foundations and make the name specific to that organization, whether it's including the location or by using any of our filters to highlight a specific organization that you had in mind. Okay. The next tool is our prospect generator. This is a tool to help identify people, organizations, foundations, the whole nine, who are likely to give to your organization, right? So we're finding new prospects. So you can search for the name of an organization specifically or use categories. But the goal is to find a similar organization. So alphabetically, we'll go animal-related causes in Alaska. Okay, so if you are an animal-related cause in Alaska, you might do this search and find out any other animal organization in your area. All right, so let's say we are the Alaska Sea Life Center. We want to learn who is donating to the Alaska Bird Observatory. Right, and you can see that there's lots of records for them, varying in years, and it's just basically what we have in the database. If you see a year that we're missing, let us know, and we'll happily go try to find it. Or if you already have that record and you would like to see it in the database, instead of having a drawer full of annual reports, you can send it to us and we'll add it to the database for you. Okay, and that can be a physical copy or a PDF of the annual report, and we'll add it. But the goal here is to find a similar organization. Once you've found that similar organization, the next step is a list of their donors to use as a prospecting list. So here are a list of donations by organizations, people, foundations, companies, the whole nine, starting at $5,000. Okay, so you can scroll through. You see there's 21 pages for this organization. But the goal here again is to find an organization that would likely give to you. When you find that organization, you can click on it, and we're going to do a gift search for that person. All right, so you can clean up the keyword search, whether it's a person, a foundation, or a company. You can clean it up a little bit and hit search, and we'll show you anytime we have that organization making a gift. This is when you can say, was that animal organization gift a fluke, or is that all they give to? You know, how focused are they to this particular cause? Do they only give in one area in Reston, Virginia, or are they giving all over the country, right? Are they giving just one or two gifts, or do they have 156 gifts that we can find? All of that data is in here, and it just helps you to make sure that you're talking to the right prospect and help identify people that are really specifically likely to give to you. Okay. Again, this tool will find a person, foundations, or companies, really any kind of giving body. The next tool here is our marketing list. This is a tool specifically designed to individuals. All right. Many of you have already gotten used to a mail campaign where you send a postcard to 1,000 people or 5 million people and let them know your cause, how they can help, and what the need is in your area or expertise. This is basically what that service is. It will get you a list of people that are specifically targeted for one thing or another. Now, what you can do is you can do a standard list of demographic data, kind of like you may already be used to, where you can look at your database and say, okay, well, I know most of my donors are women over the age of 30 who have pets in the house, right? Just as an example. You can build that list with our demographic data and focus it on, really a group of people that would be interested in your cause. But that's kind of the standard way to do things. What we offer is a little bit different. We applied all of our donor search giving data to this data set, which means you can come here and say, I want any organization or any individuals that have already given to animal-related causes, who live in Alaska, who have a pet, or who have given, $1,000 or 5 different gifts to the arts. You can get very specific. Each variation that you add brings this database of hundreds and thousands of millions of records and brings it down until you can get to a list that you can actually manage. Now, built into the package, the first 500 records are built in, so you can pull a list, whether it's one list of 500 or 10 lists of 50. You can pull that list directly from the system and add it to your mailing list. Okay, you're going to get a name, a middle initial, a last name, and a full address. Okay, that's easy enough. You can pull one list or many lists as you want. You can purchase a larger list here, right? And actually it's through the export panel here, but Bloomerang actually offers a discounted rate for that. So if this is something you're interested in, certainly let us know and we'll get you an exact price for however many records you want to mail to. The cool thing about it being built in is that you can play around the lists to figure out exactly the size of the list that you're looking for. There may not be that many people in your area that fit that build. Okay, so you can kind of play around with it, get to the list you want, and then purchase the records if you want to do it that way. The next tool is our search options, and it's basically a drop down. This will give you a list of the data sets that we offer. The first 4 are directly in our profiles, but this allows you to do a kind of a backdoor search. So I showed you a Kevin Plank profile and found the Under Armour business listing. You could go through this business data section and find that Under Armour listing and then find Kevin Plank. It works just like a backdoor, quick and easy. We also offer a few data sets for a reverse lookup. So if you only have an email or a phone or an address, but you don't know a name attached to it or more, you can use what you have to find more information here. We have a company gift matching policy or a tool to help you find which companies match gifts, powered by Double the Donation. So if you're right next to, as an example, Coke, right? If you're next to a big Coca-Cola factory and that several of your donors work there, you can come here to see if they match gifts. In this case, they match 2 to 1. So you can let your donors know that, and you can make a specific effort to get more donors that work there because their gifts are all being doubled, right? And then last but not least is that social discovery tool. This is another great way to, if you only have limited information, to find more. I'll give you an example. I'll pull up an email address of one of my bosses at DonorSearch. We'll look up Sarah at DonorSearch, and with only an email address, you may not even know her first name or any details about that email address, but you hit a search. This is going to pull up our social media platform, give you her full name, her title, and her business. All right, we're going to push her Twitter and her LinkedIn. So it shows you that she has over 1,000 followers. So that's certainly something you want to know. It gives you a little biography written by her about her. So you make sure, you're learning things about your donor that they want people to know about them. And then from LinkedIn, we get a full education and employment history. Okay, so there's lots of information here. One of the cool parts is that if you only had an email address, you now have a full name. And through the education and employment history, you can see that they're a Maryland native. Okay, that would allow you to type in her information to the integrated search. And again, you only need the first name, last name, and state. So that would give you the capability of building an entire profile on that person where you only had an email on them moments ago. Okay. The next tool is a little bit different. This is our My Portfolio. This is where all the data lives. Okay, so whether you've clicked a button one by one and you want to look them up in your integrated search results, or you've done a batch screening with us. Either way, the data will be available here in what we call our totals table. And we'll put all the information side by side, and you can scroll through the data and see all the different data sets that are available. You can stick here, and we're going to give you a platform much like Excel to kind of move around columns, compare columns, do all that fun stuff. Or of course, if you prefer Excel, you can always export it into Excel and play around with it there. Okay, all this data is available, and of course we support it with documents explaining each and every field. There's another way to look at a big batch screening, and that we call our executive analysis. That's available either here or here or here. We make it real easy to find. Okay, so when you click that analysis view, it's going to take a look at all the data we found on all your donors and summarize it for you. These go really well in board meetings because it helps not only you, but it helps your board understand your donors. Right? And if this was yours, we're saying that these are 204 records. Right? They've given about $4 million, but they're likely giving elsewhere is over 100 million. Right? So there's certainly some upside to working with this particular group. 20% of them are known major donors that have given a major gift somewhere. You can click on that pie and pull up that list of people, or you can dig further with all these other charts. What's the capacity range for your database? Here it is. This is your donor pyramid. Who do my donors, who else do they give to? You can look at that by dollar figure or by number of gifts, okay? And you can look by category for general purposes or specific organizations. This batch of people gave the most amount of money to Spelman College. However, they gave the most amount of gifts to the YWCA of Kalamazoo, okay? So if this was your organization, you can see who you're competing with, and you can see what other similar organizations your donors are giving to. So if you know that your donors give to these specific organizations, then you can try to look at those organizations to see who's not giving to you because they are likely to find an interest in your nonprofit as well. Okay, so it just helps you know more about your donors. We've included a map feature to where you can say, okay, I know where, in general, most of my donors are, but specifically, where are my major donor opportunities? Or specifically, where are the people who have given me the largest gifts or something along those lines? Okay, so you can drill down and zoom in and even put the little gold man over here on the map and get a picture of their house. Okay, which you would, of course, want to zoom in for, but that's a crazy, beautiful place to make a donation. So I digress, but it's all available inside the DonorSearch online suite of tools, and you would have the capability and capacity to explore all of this with the service. And Bloomerang offers this whole suite of tools at a highly discounted rate, so you can talk to them specifically about that. And of course, it wouldn't be the same without unlimited client support and training. So any organization that purchases this suite of tools will also have access to not only our online help center, which will provide documentation and guides and everything like that to walk you through it, but you'll also have access to our client support team and their webinars and their training sessions. And they can, take a look at your file and help you identify your top prospects for your upcoming campaign, that kind of thing. So I think I've shown just about everything I have to show. I'm sure there's a few more questions. Where do we go from here?
Thank you so much, Mike. We do have a couple of questions here. Let me just go over. So a lot of these tools, like the charts and the graphs, this is only available in the online suite of tools, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Wonderful. We're getting some questions here on pricing as well. So I just wanted to let everyone know that the generosity score that you see in your Bloomerang database, that already comes in your Bloomerang database. So the additional tools that we showed you here for the profile, as well as the batch screening and the online tools, those are separate charges. And you can, we can have a member of our customer accounts team talk to you regarding those. For prospect view, the pricing is about at 15% of what you pay for your Bloomerang subscription. We can't give you a pricing on the batch screening because that's really depends on your database, how many constituents have names and mailing addresses. So all of that will be custom pricing. And you can also see more information about our pricing on our donor search page here. Let me put that in the chat for everyone to take a look at. But as I mentioned, for batch screening, that is custom pricing. So we would love to come up with custom pricing for you. I'd also like everyone to know that we do have a special promo for our batch screening this month. So for batch screening, you can get off through the end of June. And you can indicate your interest in the poll that we have now, or you can always send an email if you need to think about it. You can always send an email to our customer accounts team at customer.accounts@bloomerang.co. And I have a sample here. We have questions asking to show where the button is again. So if you're in your Bloomerang database right now, so you would have your engagement level here, and right below that is our generosity score. So for our generosity score, typically the button that you would see here says View and Donor Search. And if you have the prospect view, you can click on that button and it will show you the profile that Mike showed us. If you've done the batch screening, however, you'll see this button that says View Generosity Details. When you click on this, this brings in additional summary fields from donor search. So Mike talked about these when we looked at the profile as well, but if you have a batch screening done, this is automatically brought into your database as well, and you can report on all of this information. You still have access to the prospect view profile, and you can still click on that here to take a look at the profile. So those are the different levels. You have the generosity score, which everyone has. You have the prospect view, which is the profile, the batch screening, bringing in those additional fields, and the online suite of tools that gives you access to those additional tools that you can log into donor search and take a look at that. Yes, so we have a question here. How do you add the generosity button on your dashboard? That's already there. And as we mentioned, if you want to avail of these additional services, we can have a member of our customer accounts team talk to you as well. Great. And Mike, I have a question as well. So if you are an organization that's just starting out, when should I use the prospect view versus when is it time to consider a batch screening, or when is it time to consider looking at the online suite of tools? Is there a great timing to take a look at any of those tools?
Sure. I wouldn't say it's an exact science. But in general, as soon as you have information on people you don't know about, it's worth knowing more about them. And specifically, the Bloomerang pricing for Prospect View will give you the capability to dig deeper onto that one by one donors, even if you have a very small database. So that's always worth it. The batch screening, some organizations only do that when they're gearing up for a capital campaign. And that's kind of how it's always been in the past. But I would challenge the nonprofit industry as a whole that the more information you know about your donors on a regular basis helps you make informed decisions on across the board. Down to how your website should look and how you should contact your donors. Knowing more about your donors is going to help improve every decision you make. So it's always worth knowing. But certainly if you're gearing up for a campaign, then I would not go through a campaign without the information. So that's when it's more almost required. But there's certainly value in it as soon as you have the capacity to take advantage of it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mike, we have another question here. Is the half off through June pricing good forever, or is it a promotional time? Great question, Betsy. Thanks for asking. This is through June. So if you are interested in the batch screening, that pricing is good through June. So you can contact our customer accounts team to get that going for you. We have another question here asking about, is there a way to see who donated in the last week broken down by their generosity score? Absolutely. So if you are in your Bloomerang database, you can report on your generosity score. You can also report on the generosity details if you have them in conjunction with any other fields in Bloomerang you'd like to report on. So let's take a look at that now. So the question here is for who donated in the last week, broken down by their generosity score. So you would start out with a constituent report, and you can add a column for the generosity score here. And already this just tells you, this is my pretend database with fictional people, so I might not have good data here, but this shows you that you can add generosity as a column. So you can see here some aren't scanned. This might mean, or this is probably because I don't have a US address for these constituents, and some already have the generosity score. I can group this by column. So that groups it based on the constituents' generosity score. So here I have those that aren't scanned. I'll have here listed who my constituents are that are on fire, hot, warm, cool. I can add some additional summary columns from my Bloomerang data to compare against that. One thing I'd like to add as well is the engagement level, because Mike mentioned earlier that the generosity score is based on giving not just to your organization, but other charitable giving as well. But the engagement level is specific to your organization. So this is something I like to add together and compare side by side. So I might see constituents who have a generosity of on fire, but are cold with my organization. So this tells me that I need to be doing something special with these organizations to increase their engagement level. Going back to the question, I can also add more filters here for has transactions to see who has given in a specific time period. So I can see, for example, based on the question that we have here, is constituents that may have given last week. If that's what I'm looking for, I can do that and click OK. It looks like for my database at this time, I have 2. And you can always adjust that date range as well. I also mentioned you can add some summary columns as well if you'd like to take a look, for example, at lifetime revenue or lifetime raised. Just any indication of how much they've given with your organization or how long they've been giving to your organization, you can add that as well. Thank you. We have additional questions here as well. Going back to what are the benefits of batch screening, a big reason or major reason our customers run it is to save time in looking up thousands of donor search reports. If we go back to constituent here, being able to view their profile, I have to make the decision to go to their constituent account and click on that button to see their profile. Whereas a batch screening, we automatically bring in this information and you can report on this information as well. So instead of looking up constituents one by one, I can run a report. And if I search for my generosity details here, for example, if I'm preparing for a big campaign that our organization is doing, I can report by these generosity detail fields. So instead of going to each profile one by one to look at that report, we can just run this report in Bloomerang and get a summary of who those constituents are. Thank you for all of those questions. Thank you again so much, Mike, for joining us today.
No problem.
And for showing us all of the wonderful possibilities that you can do with Donorsearch. It is truly a wonderful tool. That's why it's built into your Bloomerang database, and we have these additional offerings to enhance your data and to help you with your fundraising. If you have additional questions, or if you'd like to go back and review some of these options, you can take a look at our website, or you can also email our customer accounts team. They would be happy to talk through the options for you for prospect view or batch screening or the online suite of tools. Thank you so much. Any last words, Mike, that you'd like to tell our friends today?
Overall, I just wanted to say thank you for having me, and of course, stay safe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.